Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. So today let's discuss an interesting topic, securities. How do you configure security? That is, how do you give a specific role for a users? So let's dive deep into securities. I have just prepared a small list. So let me take this as an example and go through the security setups that's there in D365. Probably will give an idea how a security configuration can be done from the front end. So I've just taken finance as an example. So when I create a finance rules, so these are the few examples I would like to highlight. Let's say you can have one rule for CFO where you give access only to run all your reports. Then your master data management, you can create one rule for MDM where your vendors or your customers, all the posting profiles, all the master data that can be created. So then we have general ledger, AP, AR, fixed assets, right? So this is just at a high level. You can individually create a role for GL, AP, AR, FA, or you can club GL, AP, AR in one, FA in the separate role, or you can say all the invoice is one team, all the payments or other team. So it really depends upon how the project requirement is, right? So, just to understand how the security setup is done, for today, let's pick one role where we're going to assign GL, AP, AR, and anything to do with fixed assets, let's going to remove that. So, that's the role I'm going to create today. So, let's just create a new sheet. So, let's create one, let's say finance role. Let's call it as finance role. So we're going to assign them GL, AP, and AR. AP and AR. Okay. So before I get to start with assigning this role, so first let's understand few basic elements of security that is there in D365. So whenever you're doing security, there is a rule. Under rule, there are duties, and under duties there are privilege, and there are furthermore, if you drill down within privilege, you can go for an action item where you can specific buttons can be enabled or disabled once you dig deep inside privilege. So for today, let's just hold at the basic level, at the high level. So I want to do a security setup. So I need to create one rule, and my role will have certain duties, and each duties will be connected with privilege. So what is role, what is duty, what is privilege? So we will understand that as and when we start doing the setup. So let's go to D365. So let's say I want to do a security configuration. So I have already come to go to security configuration, navigation, go to system admin, security, and click on security configuration. So security configuration is a place where we can do setup related to securities. So let's create our own role. Okay, now even before I get started with it, so there is a basic role called as accountant. Now any changes you make to this particular role will impact the standard setup. So, if you want to create your own role, your own duty, your own privilege, always try to create duplicate and make changes only to that role or that duty or that privilege so that the standard is not disturbed. So let's take accountant. I don't know what rights they have. It looks like more what we're trying to create it. So let's take this basic or the standard rule. Let's duplicate this first. So I can give a name I want. Let's say demo finance. So this is the role name that I'm going to create, demo finance. Click OK. So any changes I want to make to a particular role, it's going to be for this particular role, demo finance. I'm not going to touch the standard accountant role. In case if I want to use the standard role, I can always go back and use that. So you should always refer and create a new role. Once a role is created, you can see there is an unpublished object. Always make sure you publish once a role or your any changes it's done to your duties or privileges. So select this and publish selection. So my role which we created, demo finance, is now going to be published. So let me publish that. So once the role is published, now, as I said, what activities or what functionalities that particular role can be done, let's now dig deep. So to understand for this demo purpose, so what I've done, I have created a user. So this is the other user which I can log in from an environment. So let's assign the role we just created. So let me remove the accountant role which I assigned. So let's assign the role we just created, demo finance. So let me go to demo. So this is the role. Now, one more additional keynote that can be remembered. Whenever you're assigning a particular role, if you want to know what license that is required for that role, you can see here license. So for this role particularly, if I want to assign this to a user, the user should have a finance license. There is finance license, there is activity license, there is SEM license. So depending upon what role you're assigning, so system will determine which license is required. So let's select this and click OK. So for this user, I have assigned a role demo finance. Now let me open another environment. So this is an environment where if you see the login details here, so this is the person which for which I have assigned the demo finance. Now let's see what activities the role will give me to do. So if I do see here, I want to give an accounts payable access. So let me go to accounts payable. So I don't want them to create vendors or customers. I want them to just post invoice and payments. So if I do come here, you can see there is no option to create vendors, which is perfect for us. So I think this is a standard rule. So obviously it takes care of the setup part. They will not have any access to setup part. So let's more focus on fixed assets. So currently, if I see my standard accountant role, it's giving access to my fixed assets. Let's say if I go to fixed assets, I can see I can create a new fixed assets. I can edit, delete. I have all the options with regards to fixed assets. So the demo finance role, which I have created. So the role name is demo finance. So we will make sure all the access that is related to fixed assets will be taken out. So currently FA is accessible. So let's make sure FA rules are taken out. So how do you do that? So this is the uh, login, user ID login. So here I will not be able to do anything. It's only to test it. So let's go to the admin role. So this is my admin role. So I want to do a setup or a changes related to fixed assets. So what security it's going to affect my fixed assets? So how do you find out? So if you want to know what duties will impact a particular form, you have to go to that form. Let's say fixed assets. So once I come to fixed assets, I can go to fixed assets and click on fixed assets. So any form that we go in D365, it will have a button called options. If I click on that, I can see security diagnostics. So click on security diagnostic. It will give you a particular role and a particular duty that as or that will impact access to this particular form. So if I come here, you can see there is an option inquiry into fixed assets, maintain fixed assets. Inquiry will only give you view access and maintain will give you edit access. So for my demo finance, we'll take out edit access to fixed assets. So now I know maintain fixed assets is the duty that will give an option to add or edit my fixed assets. So let's come back to security configuration. So let's select the demo finance role that we created. So click on demo finance, click on duties. So this will give a list of duties that I have created for this particular role. So let's remove duty related to fixed assets contains. I think it's maintain fixed assets. So let me select maintain fixed. you can see there is maintain fixed assets. So I'm going to remove this particular duty from this rule. So select this. Here you can see remove references. Click on remove references. Now come to unpublished objects. So select this and click publish selection or publish all. It will publish all the. So once I publish this, all the changes will impact on my new role. So it is published. Now let's go back to the roles. So this is a role for which it has to impact. Let me just refresh the screen. Okay. So the new changes should now reflect. So let's now go to fixed assets. Then go to fixed assets and click on fixed assets. If you now see, edit option is disabled. So now this particular role, when we give access to this role, the user can only see fixed assets but will not be able to make any changes because I have removed the rights to make changes. So similarly, let's have a look at one more example. So now let's say I don't want him to post entries related to fixed assets as well. So if I go to fixed assets journal, so currently I have an option to create a transaction. So I can post a transaction related to fixed assets. But for this role, I don't want them to do any activities related to fixed assets. So let's remove that. So go back to the admin login. So go to fixed assets, go to that particular role or that particular form to find out what role or what duty is required to post a journal entry. So go to fixed assets journal, click on options, then click on security diagnostics. So here I can see a privilege or even a duty. There's a duty, maintain fixed assets transactions. So if I give a duty maintain fixed assets transaction, it will give an option to post transactions. But I don't want to give them an option to post the transactions. So what I can do, I can go and remove this particular maintain fixed assets transaction from security configuration and my access to post a transaction will be taken out. Now, this is something very simple which we understood at the first level. Now let's understand how a particular duty can be changed. For example, let's say this duty as an option to create fixed asset transaction, right? So what we will do, we'll give an option to create a fixed asset transaction, but post option can be disabled. Like the user can create a transaction, but they will not have a rights to post transactions. So how can we do that? So now let's come to security configuration roles. So make sure you always select your particular role, so which is demo finance. Now select the duties. So in the duties, we have an option maintain fixed assets. Maintain or was this maintain fixed assets transaction? Okay, so let's enter maintain fixed. Now there's a maintain fixed assets transaction. So here's a catch. Now if I make any changes to this particular duty, now if I remove this duty from this rule, I'm making changes to the rule. But once I selected duty, I can see further drill down to privileges. If I click on privileges, so these are all the privileges that is given to this particular duty. If I make any changes to this privilege, that's going to impact this duty. So make sure you duplicate a duty and then make changes to that particular privileges to have an impact only for your particular role. This is where it's slightly confusing, right? So let's understand a little bit more. Now we created a role called demo finance, which is straightforward. Now there is duties. Okay. Now the duty that I am considering is maintain fixed assets transaction. Okay. Now this particular duty is assigned to multiple roles. Let's say for demo finance, it is assigned For accountant, it is assigned. Okay, and furthermore rules it is assigned. Now these duties will have certain privileges. So let's say it has privileges related to maintain fixed assets lines entry, fixed assets transactions, so post asset journal transaction. Okay, so let's consider this post asset journal. So this is one of the privilege this duty as. Now, if I remove this privilege from this duty, this duty is assigned to demo finance, it's assigned to accountant as well. So the impact is going to be on both the roles. But whatever changes I make, I want that changes to reflect only on one particular role. So I don't want the changes to go and hit the other standard role. So what we have to do is first create one duplicate duty, name whatever name you give a name to that particular duty, and then within that duty you make a changes related to privilege. So we created a rule. Let's create one duty. So let's go to system. I'm not making any changes. So let's just select this particular duty. So let's remove, let me click here to come back to the duties. So let's remove that particular duty from my role. Maintain fixed assets transactions. So first I will remove reference. Okay, then unpublished object, it is impacting only my role, so publish all. So what I have done, there is a duty called maintain fixed assets transaction. I have removed this duty from this particular role. So when I remove that, what happens, complete fixed assets transaction is removed. But now I want to assign an option for them to create a transaction, but I want to remove only post option. So let's go to the actual user where I can test it. Refresh. So far what I've done, I've removed maintain fixed assets transaction from this particular role. So if I go to fixed assets journal, you can say I don't have an option to create a new transaction. Now we will edit in such a way they can create a transaction, but only post option will be disabled. So how do we do that? So go to system. So first let's go to duties. Now I am making changes to duties. I am not making any changes to my role. So I am clicking a duty. So what is the duty that I want to make changes? It is maintain fixed assets journal. Maintain fixed assets transactions. Okay. So this is the duty. So remember, this particular duty is assigned to multiple role. So I'm not going to change this. Let's create a new duty. So select this duty, click on duplicate. Here you can give a name. Let's say demo. I will say fixed assets journal and then click OK. So now if I come to publish, it is impacting only one particular duty. So here I am creating a duty demo fixed assets journal. Now remember, this duty is not assigned to any role. So we'll make changes to this duty and then we will assign this duty to this particular role. So the impact of the changes to this duty is only on demo finance and not on other roles. So now let's publish this. Okay, once published, now let's come back to duties. So now I can see a demo duty. So let me select that. So this is a duty which I have created. So this duty has multiple privileges. So let me just click on privilege. Here I can see an option called post journal transactions. So when I select post journal transactions, I can remove post journal transactions, or If I click on action menu items, you can see there is ledger post transaction. So I can see, you can see there is an option grant or deny. So what this does is this will deny a particular action to post. So this is again going little deep. So let's cover privileges little later. Let me come back to post journal transaction, which is my duty. So in the fixed assets journal, I have one privilege called post fixed assets journal transaction. Let's remove reference. So I am only removing post option, but create a fixed assets transaction is still there for this particular duty. So first let's publish this. So publish all. Now we are drilling down further. So I took a particular duty called demo fixed assets journal. Now this duty has multiple privileges. One of the privileges post transaction for fixed assets. Okay. So what I'm doing now, it's this particular privilege that's been taken out. So I have removed this privilege. So if I assign this duty back to this role, they will have an option to create a fixed assets transaction, but post option will be disabled. So let's go to roles. Let me select the role that we just created, that is demo finance. Now click on duties. So how do you add an additional duty? Click on add reference. So remember, we created one duty, demo fixed assets journal, where post privilege is removed. Click OK. So that duty is added to this role. Now if I come to unpublished object, it is impacting only one role. So because my duty is added only to one role, therefore impact is only on one role. So now let me go back to the demo environment. So here I don't have a create option. Let's refresh. It's refreshing. Okay. So now I have an option to create a transaction. So if I see here, I can create a transaction. I have not created journal names, but post button is disabled because we gave an option to create a transaction, but post button has been disabled. So that is how you can drill further down for duties, roles to duties, then duties to privilege. So let's pick one more example. So as the next example, let's just go to the user. Let's see anything in fixed assets that we should be removing. So let's go to fixed assets, setup, depreciation profile. So I can see the user has an option to depreciation profile. So let's see how we can remove this particular duty where they should not be having an option to edit or create a depreciation profile. View option, it's fine. We'll give a view option, but let's take out the delete and edit option. So let me go to the admin. So first go to the depreciation profile, find out what duty or privilege is impacting that. So if I click on security, I can see there is a privilege or a duty, enable fixed assets process, inquiry into fixed assets process policies. Inquiry is only a view option, but enable fixed assets process will give an option to maintain. So let's remove enable fixed assets process. Or you can also see a privilege, maintain fixed assets depreciation profile. So you can either remove a particular privilege from a duty or you can remove the duty itself. So let's go to setup. So let me just get back to the securities. So system admin, security, security configuration. Then let's select the role where I want to make changes. So the demo, finance. Then click on duties. So what are the duties that I want to remove? So the duty that I want to remove is maintain fixed assets, sorry, enable fixed assets process. So if I click on here and look for a duty that says enable fixed assets, look for this particular duty, and I can remove reference, that is I'm removing a particular duty from my rule. So go to unpublished object and then publish all. So once this is published, let's go to the other rule, refresh, and try if I can access posting profile. So let me just refresh. So as since we have removed the particular duty, I should not have an option to see or make any changes in depreciation profile. So let's go to fixed assets, setup. If I see here, fixed as depreciation profile doesn't even exist. So this particular user now don't have any rights or a duty related to depreciation profile. If you want to give view access, you can add the view access, but I have removed the complete fixed assets process. Therefore, the depreciation profile access doesn't exist. So this is how you can modify a particular duty, role, or privilege with regards to security setup in D365. That's it for today. Thank you everyone.